and that is all the allies, all the AKAs. That is Disco
zacmodirapula.
And he is on about the hashtag celebrate hair. He's a man, guys, so we want to find out why is he celebrating
So
hair?
he is celebrating hair and helping the hairs to celebrate themselves. Yeah.
That way.
So
we
he
have
can
him
tell
in
the story
studio.
better.
This is a not to miss interview, guys. We are live on all the social media platforms. Do follow us, do comment, and we have Zach in studio. Hi, Zach.
Yeah, it is. Hi. Do I put this on to hear myself?
I don't put
Do you want to
it
hear yourself?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum, bra. So welcome to the studio, welcome to the common space, and thank you for and you share your story. What we thought we should do, you know, so you know, na di rendezvous le tsela le ntata na le basadi ba ba fonyana da o krona le main wa bo parliament and then ona le tse for tsa bo me 1 me 2 but hona le go go amogelwang ba yeng so ke ga mogela ba eng tshwentse ba ipege so ba go polokwane ba iputse o mara a butse ba ke disco this demand ba go pitso ba this demand. So it would be great if you can introduce yourself. Who is Zach Disco Modirapula?
Ke leboga ke ana modise wa ga Modirapula wa ga Nkosana originally from Barolong ba ga Lichtenburg ke go ba tswang teng ba go goletse mo Gauteng ba Jozi AKA the Disco. Many know me as Zach.
Yeah. Hi, Zach.
And in DRC Congo, they know me as Monsieur La Zacke.
Ooh, it gets worse, guys.
I thought you were worse with all the AKAs, but okay.
Yes. And yeah, Kokasi is the host. I'm called the host. It's my street artistic graffiti name. There's also that part of it. And
okay, I thought I wanted to be an artist, but I can't keep up with all of that. Right?
It's almost like multi-personality.
That's weird.
Okay, let's step away from it.
You know, and it's all about embracing all of them, actually.
Because you own them.
Yes, because you can't, neglect them, because then it's not short,
No, true. And I think it's important that you mention that because we challenged our listeners to actually tell us what identity means to them. So you could touch on that as well. That you tell us, you're saying you've got all these million names and you wear different hats of those names or different tags.
Yes.
What does it mean to you, identity, when you talk of identity to you?
It means quite a lot, when one grows up, instinctively you sort of like know your identity, but throughout your growing, it gets, I guess, like immersed by other factors outside of your world, and then you sort of like forget. I recently, for the past 3 years, also got to embrace my other identity of Baholo, bona badimo, bona ba malefetse, bona ba azwani, ba Modirapula, Thokozani, Bokoko. I got to interact with them and really get to know them, what is called a calling, which is quite an important thing because it is the spiritual age as well, which is happening to quite a lot of people. So it means quite a lot to identify with that because I think it sort of clears the way and you sort of know what then you'd be doing or are doing and the purpose of that then therefore.
So I guess it almost talks to, there's this thing of the sankofa they talk of. That's very personal to me. Almost anything I talk about, I need to make reference of the sankofa pedo. I have it in my head that you need to look back. For you, absolutely. It could be the thing of the ancestral thing, but for some of, like, we don't, what should I say, like, or something, we don't do that.
Yes.
But it's necessary that you refer back so that we know where
shout out to Ntate Mutabaruka, by the way, how work as
Tabaruka.
Okay, the main man,
yes. And also you don't necessarily have to go Otlabe because Babang Bahulu, they were not for Kutlaba, so the practices really are different from one I guess family to the next, and what you're calling is because Babang and they appreciate other things, like you just being in the water and staying in the water, and maybe just being a herbalist, or so to speak, and maybe just fully being immersed within your artistry, you know. And it's just to acknowledge. I think first, most importantly,
Yes.
firstly, is to acknowledge. Once you acknowledge, and then you would know what to do after that.
Who you are. I
Yes,
think once
yeah.
you acknowledge your whole being, it's easier to move along and not like when in everything that comes, because as you grow, like you said, as all the other factors affect your identity, but
Yeah.
once you're in a space where you own yourself, everything else doesn't matter because you know who you are within.
So lineage, guys, lineage. You know, similar to, you know, you hear one that the Middle East, Farouk bin Mustafa
Yes.
bin
Yes.
Mahdi
Yes.
bin, all those bins. It's basically
The
the
lineage.
chain to where you come from. So it says so kids when they are born, then they don't get lost. Or you know? So this
yes.
thing, what I think we emphasize on,
Yes.
and what I think you're talking about, you can correct me, is that thing of acknowledging where you come from, so that how you go pele already since we talk already
Acknowledgement is like such an important thing, because people get really scared to entertain their identity, because then they think, oh, and it's got nothing to do with that. It's like you must just acknowledge that lineage, and perhaps that's all you had to do. You know, it's just to like be fully immersed into it, and then that's it. And then it becomes what it's called seeing the light, I guess. And it is quite a miracle, because when it happens to you every day is such a pleasure to live in.
And I think the one thing that I've taken note of is in the era that we are in now, like the African child is so conscious of themselves,
Yes.
of their Africanness and their identity in everyday life. And it's something that's very visible. We're not hiding anymore about who you are and what you want to be in the world.
But again, let's emphasize different strokes, different folks.
Sure.
That you know what, kids win. How kids? Then now we impress but the core of this thing and the heartbeat is that you need to know yourself. Now, Zach, going to the very interesting part now. That was very important. Now the very interesting.
Yes.
Your artistry. You are such an artist. Videographer, photographer, just now you just said graffiti or something. Now you're doing, there's a campaign you're running, you actually making your skill, your passion to meet the movement, which is acknowledging our women and what they go through. Tell us about your art world, your space, your art.
Yo.
I know it's very general, but just flow it.
Yeah.
First time.
Yo, it's vast, huh? It's vast. And I mean, obviously, Leona, it started when one was young. But it's so vast that you realize that one can get to be a super being, you know, if you really like weekend, like and like, you know, you find there isn't anything that you can't do, you know. There are some people who prefer to do one particular discipline. Now when I do that, I just die inside.
You are a generalist, you are not a specialist.
But I trade in many facets.
Yes.
Don't limit yourself.
That's the English, my friend. That's the English.
So one day, I mean, it starts with the pencil. The other day, it will be on a computer. The other day, it will be digital. The other day, it will be analog. You know, just putting things together and making them move. The other day, it will be on the streets, like graffiti, which is like my first love, which I still really do.
Arrested for graffiti?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
That's part of the movement.
Yeah. That's your street cred.
Yes, you haven't graduated.
No, you have. That's your street cred. So you sort of like, I mean, but you don't go out there like, okay, where are the cops? Look, no, but like it always happens when you're not even expecting it, you know. And I guess it goes with like being a little bit rebellious as well, you know, against what it would be a systematic way of living.
Creatives are rebellious.
Like in general, right?
It's so weird.
Good rebellion. Well,
yes,
It depends though, but what I wanted to ask you was your artistic self.
Yeah.
for me, it's a shocker as a mother raising boys. I mean, you met my son,
Yeah,
and he
yeah, yeah.
loves photography.
Yeah.
It worries me. What route will he take? And I saw you, and I'm thinking, okay, can you not be a Zach? But what did your mother say?
She, amazing enough, it was out of her bounds. She actually, because I grew up with Alex.
Okay.
So it was kind of rare for her to even entertain me going to what is called an art school. Amongst at that time, you really want your son to be a doctor. You really want a stature on. What's accounting? What's accountant? Whatever. So she really entertained it, and I think there was nothing she could really do about it, because the more she entertained it, the more it had its own success, I guess, so to speak, because it was working out, from Goskolong, I would travel, but then when I tried to go to a normal school, I would sort of like die inside. Yeah, and then if I die inside, she obviously dies inside.
Yeah.
So she really, it was beyond her hands. It's like, you know what, I gave birth to you, but I know that you belong to the world and you belong to another world, so just go out there and do your thing.
So it was
Till today.
that money and passion thing, and like,
Yeah.
for you it was more passion because it was within, it's you.
Absolutely. I mean, you will get to times where, obviously, because, this world is not guaranteed, where you sort of like hit a dip, but like when you hit a dip, it's time for you to like recollect and say, maybe there's another level coming to this for me to learn a little bit more.
Or maybe there's another window like that.
There's another window.
Maybe that's not the door to use, but I need to go via this window to go to the.
Yes. And that's when the artist, the artist Safara. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
I guess that's where we find like our content type of a thing. Well, I mean, and throughout all artistry, look at music artists. It's like, but rather be in a bad relationship. And then what happens after that? The biggest R&B song ever about love.
So you
like
cut, what did it say?
like
Cut your nose to spite.
And it's unconscious as well. Sometimes it's unconscious. Like you only realize it later. Like and it's like but then after that, that's when you get to tap into other people's emotions and they get to relate to your story. Because like you went through that, and then that's when they buy your album, that's when they buy your artwork. It's like something in that artwork touches me inside, because I had to go through that. I always say artists like hold the world on their shoulders like that, because they wouldn't know it then, like washanya at that time. But then after the work is done, it's like, wow. So it's like I had to go through all the pain.
You had to go through certain emotions and deal with all of them at the same time.
But not even go through that, but you take yourself through that. I get like it's like a trap. You set a trap for yourself so that you can dig inside and see what transformers
to the
like
core.
But then it's that thing, nothing grows in your comfort zone.
Yes.
For sure.
If you're in your comfort zone, then you'll never advance to something else. And also eventually, I think I was listening to a talk that there's different levels of motivational speaking. There's life-changing, there is motivation, there is something, like just a lot. But if you want to connect with people, you need to dig within yourself and find yourself, so that you actually connect with the people while you're speaking with them. You can just pass there and speak and you're done.
But you won't connect.
But you did not
Yes.
So as an artist as well, I think with your work, you always have to connect with the people and relate with them. So when I see that, I'm like, I can relate with that. I've been through that, and he actually survived that, and I can actually survive that.
Do the same,
Wow, man. Would you take it to now? I always they say I think I've got an old soul, which is fine. I'm comfortable.
I like that you're embracing it.
No, I do. My weaknesses and my strengths, they are mine.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
So I always compare, for instance, journalists who were there in the 70s and the 60s because they lived with the people. They were part of a certain, what do you call it, or whatever. They were part, they were there. I feel when I read something that was written by somebody, maybe Tate Moane or whoever, and I read something that's written today, let's take an article, and sometimes I feel a disconnect sometimes because maybe we don't allow ourselves to live that emotion. We got so many things, but sometimes it takes an artist to walk through the footsteps. Yeah, somebody had to go to an extent of actually sending themselves to prison. I don't remember where. I read that. Story about.
Yes,
I don't remember where I read that, but somebody had to go to prison at the satellite trap so that he can write a story about prison and what people go through. And that's like self-sabotage. That's deep, guys. I don't think I can do that. I love creatives. I appreciate you guys. But
they can, everybody's got a place in this world, what they have to do. So they have that part, and you stick to your own.
I guess you're leaving it up to us, right?
Yes, I mean, I trust you guys.
Like I don't think I've ever lived a comfortable life. It's always been super risky. Yeah, always, all the time.
And you're on a journey then, like it thrills you.
Yes, all the time. If that's what you sort of like call suffering, but it's always to like try and tap into spaces which have never been like tapped into, and sort of being the first one that gets to do that kind of a thing. As much as it might be seen as being wild or crazy, but there is a sort of comfort that comes with it, that I get to do it, and I was the first one to know what that feeling is like, so that then after that I've paved the way, for
you've cracked the code.
I love that. I love that word.
Oh man,
I love cracking the code all the time. Cracking the code is the most important element in my life.
Wow, man.
Forever.
You know what? I think we need now with people. I've also noticed in companies. There used to be a time when they would be on some. We hire people with qualifications stating for a certain job.
Yeah.
Specifically, but now I see there's a trend of people actually hiring creatives, because there's this thing now of, we want to crack the code as a company.
Yeah.
So I think that's the space now. Yes. Creatives now find themselves actually being relevant, not only in their world, but also in the corporate world. I think it also, you said you've got sons. I think that also allows that, because then it broadens.
It's the spiritual age, it's the creative age. Being multifaceted is like one of the most important things right about now, of like being able to touch all sort of like spheres and being able to do all of them. I remember when I went to what you would call creative college. I actually went through 3 creative colleges, because they all sort of like wanted me to focus on a specific area, but I would quickly just get over that and then go to the next one and go to the next one. Whereby back in the days you were like only an art director, and that's what you do. You're an art director and you're good with your hand, and then we'll get to teach you the computer, and then that's all you do. While today you're both an art director, you're a designer, you're a conceptualizer. You have to know how to write as well, which is much more important. You have to know how to code. You have to be a gamer. You have to, like, it's so much of it.
Are those even real jobs? Wow.
You see,
there's so many careers.
It definitely has to delve into being a hobby.
She's a designer, and she was so upset that her father, when she speaks about, she's like, project and that's
so sad, guys.
And the things that I think our parents, and I'm talking to myself as well, because I think I originally come from Lesotho, and we're still very conservative. So allowing my kids to be in a space of saying, okay, I'm just going to close my eyes and let them be, and then it kicks in, I'm a mother. No, that's not happening. But I'm not going to live for them forever. And I know how miserable I get as well when I have to do things that I didn't want to do, like having to work. Hint. And I got to, my mother has just been so supportive, because she used to ask, why are you wasting people's time and actually applying for jobs? Just do your own thing, stay home. Because I'd work for 3 months and I'm like, no, I can't do that. I don't want routine. I want something that always motivates me to get up in the morning. Working and
with amacreatives, which for me was sort of like a calling thing, which I always didn't know.
So you started amacreatives?
I started amacreatives way back. I remember at the time I was working in Tanzania. In Namibia. But I did stay in Tanzania for a long time. I was in Namibia, and I was very unhappy about. I was still traveling, but I was still unhappy about my craft and what I'm into, purely because at that time So they invite me to Namibia, and then all the emails are in Afrikaans.
Yay.
And all the communications in Afrikaans.
Can I pause you a bit?
Yes.
It's 11:30. Can we go for a break? That is going to be very interesting. So I don't want to cut you in between when you're already saying that. So we're going to go for a short break.
Especially the Afrikaans part. Can you go for a break, please, before you